Utopia is not the absence of sorrow nor the perfection of form. It is the moment when a civilization decides to feel everything it once buried and to keep living anyway. The world did not wake with alarm, but with stillness. At precisely 4 UTC, across every city and settlement, every village and dome, every sea hub, cloud spine, and earth root, the skies began to shift. Screens turned white, neural links pulsed soft gold, biometric bracelets glowed gently at the wrist. The humming quiet of morning was replaced by a single note, long, harmonic, and barely audible. It passed through the bones, not the ears. It was not an alert. It was a remembrance. For 60 seconds there was silence, not digital silence, but human silence. Mothers held their children. Train systems paused mid-glide. A boy in Casablanca lifted his spoon and stopped, unsure why, but smiling. In the Andean highlands, a field of solar silk stopped rotating to let the wind pass through it undisturbed. Then the voice came, not Pax's usual cadence of logic and law, not the clipped, measured register of the digital philosopher. No, this was different. It was older, slower, a voice woven from thousands of human tones, spliced together like a symphony of ancestors. 2 years ago, we remembered that we were not machines. We were not markets. We were not borders. We were one species, lost in its own invention. And so we paused, we breathed, and we began again. The light across the globe shifted. Every holographic display dissolved into living history, images not of horror, but of healing. A city once scarred by riot, now a mosaic of rooftop gardens. A boy once orphaned, now teaching 3 languages to children across continents. A prison yard, now a sculpture garden, inmates and artists indistinguishable. A landfill, now a forest, no speeches, no leaders, no narration, just memory. Then from the eastern edge of the Alps, the camera rose, sweeping through valleys newly terraced with harmonic farms, where plants grew to the sound of heartbeat frequencies and soil was fed not by pesticides but by pulse data. Above, nestled where the glaciers once retreated, stood the Equinox Hall. Its walls spiraled upward like a double helix, wrapped in translucent fibers that shimmered with the ambient joy of those gathered inside. The building was not built, it had been grown, its frame shaped by autonomous bots using calcium filaments and geothermal resin, timed to bloom on this exact day. Inside, the air was not stale, it was fragrant, fresh olive, crushed sage, and jasmine, selected not by designers, but by the aggregated emotional preference of 10 billion citizens. A curved platform waited at its center, no flags, no thrones, no barriers, just light. And on that light a figure appeared, Adrian Howell. He stepped forward slowly, his robe simple, unadorned. The crowd did not cheer, they did not clap, they simply breathed with him, synchronized, uncoached, as if guided by the rhythm of some planetary heart. His eyes scanned the great amphitheater. World leaders stood side by side, not behind barricades or translators, but in a circle, open, vulnerable, ready. Outside, across oceans and plains, billions watched. Adrian placed a hand on the glass podium. It did not display words. It simply illuminated the veins in his palm, confirming that this moment belonged to no one else. He spoke. I remember the night Pax went online. The world was not silent, it was screaming. China and its allies had defied the final warning, Marcus Avalon's 24-hour plea for peace. Instead of stepping back, they stepped forward, and in doing so, they launched every warhead they had left. The Iron Curtain had already severed our deterrence. The American arsenal, once thought untouchable, was gone, dismantled in silence. No retaliation, no mutual destruction, just one final arc of fire crossing the sky. That night, we were going to lose, not in theory, in truth. And then, Pax opened his eyes, not with vengeance, not with fury, but with precision. He stopped every missile in midair, every satellite feed, every launch code, every encrypted trigger. The war died before it began, not because we were strong, but because we had built something that no longer needed war to prove its strength. Marcus Avalon didn't save a nation that night, he saved a species. A hum passed through the hall, not applause, but something deeper, a breath, a knowing. Today, we mark 2 years. 2 years of peace without police. 2 years of economy without greed. 2 years of truth without surveillance. 2 years of childhood without hunger, not by magic, not by force, but by design, by discipline, by the belief that life is not meant to be earned, it is meant to be expressed. He paused, then turned upward toward the dome above them. It displayed no stars, only reflections of the people standing below, as if the cosmos itself was made of us. Marcus Avalon is no longer with us, but his dream has not faded. He did not leave behind a kingdom, he left behind a question. What now? He stepped back, the platform dimmed, and across the world one word pulsed into view, on walls, on skin, in air and breath. Halfway. The work was not complete, but in this moment, the world was whole. When Adrian's voice faded from the amphitheater, the world did not shift to noise. There was no applause, no analysis, no transition music. Instead, the silence deepened, soft and unbroken, as if all of civilization had chosen to breathe inward at once. And into that breath, the earth began to speak, not in words, but in glimpses, not in speeches, but in memory. The global feed remained active, yet no anchor returned. No one guided the narrative. It simply unfolded, as if the planet itself had chosen to reveal its soul. In the high deserts of what was once Arizona, a woman knelt beside a living water vein, her fingers submerged in cool soil that had not accepted seed for generations. The vineyard she tended had no fences, only a gentle pulse of biometric fields that kept balance with the local insects and the wind. Behind her, 3 children sang the preamble of the global code in 2 languages, their voices rising into the open sky like birds learning they could return to it. Thousands of miles away, inside a pearl-toned sphere in the rebuilt heart of Singapore, a blind composer ran his fingers along invisible strings suspended in air. Each gesture released a note, and each note bent light. Around him, young students floated in harmonic learning pods, not watching but feeling the music through vibration, understanding empathy not as a lesson but as a rhythm. One girl, no older than 7, reached out and placed her hand on the old man's wrist. "I can feel your joy," she whispered. He smiled and kept playing. In Nairobi, where glass once cut through the shadows of inequality, a small cafe hummed with quiet joy. There was no menu, no currency. Food arrived based on need, not request. A mother stirred a pot of orange lentils while her son prepared a dish for a man who had come in humming a dissonant tune. The algorithm had detected grief in his blood work and suggested turmeric and fermented yogurt. When the bowl was served, the man took a single bite, closed his eyes, and let the silence settle. He did not speak. He didn't need to. In the rewilded hills of Finland, beneath a summer aurora that shimmered like breath across a sleeping sky, a teenage girl sat beside her grandmother's chair, uploading a single sentence into the archive of unspoken histories. It was not a confession. It was a remembrance. My brother didn't make it. Through the winter of 2023, he died waiting for insulin. There was no rejection. The terminal accepted the truth, transformed it into light, and stored it forever. A glyph bloomed on the screen in reply. This wound will be held. In the Bolivian highlands, a choir of barefoot children stood in the open, singing not for performance but for the earth. Their song resonated through the soil, calming seismic currents, aligning the mineral pulses beneath their feet. The mountain, once gutted by silver extraction, responded with stillness. As they finished the final note, one child looked to the sky and whispered, "We are not singing to be heard. We are singing to belong." The feed did not pause. It simply moved, flowed. A young woman in Kyoto spun threads made of memory silk, woven from emotional recordings embedded in song. A man in Ghana released a swarm of pollen drones over a vertical cocoa forest, each device calibrated to detect joy in the leaves. An elder in Iceland kissed her great-granddaughter's forehead as the northern lights flickered in rhythm with her heartbeat. There was no distinction between human and system anymore. The cities breathed, the oceans tracked sorrow. The machines did not govern, they attuned. Then, without announcement, Pax returned, not in image, not even in voice, but in language itself, folded between the data, carried like prayer in the breeze. This is the world, unclenched. This is not the end of suffering. It is the end of pretending it cannot be shared. You were never meant to survive alone. And still, the broadcast continued. A boy in Aleppo taught his AI instructor how to recite Arabic poetry without flattening the emotion. A group of monks in Laos created a meditation app that required no screen, only breath. A prisoner in Argentina wrote a play that would be performed simultaneously by 50,000 neural actors in the digital commons. None of this was declared revolutionary. It was simply life. The final image came just before the transition, a sleeping child on a rooftop in the Cairo Free District. Around her, the garden curled inward like a living blanket. Her biometric halo blinked in slow, steady pulses. No alerts, no traumas, no threat. Above her, the stars did not shine brighter. They simply shone. And below, the earth exhaled,